Hello friends, good morning. I, Dr. V. M. Tidke, Sanjeevani College of Engineering, Department of MBA, welcomes you all. Today, let us continue our studies of Decision Science Unit number 4, that is Network Analysis. So in particular, today we are going to see the various components of network analysis. Friends, at the end of the session, every student will be able to understand the various components of network analysis. Okay, now let us begin. Number one is events or nodes. Events or nodes are nothing but the milestones of the project and occur at a particular point of time. Events only represent either the start of an event or an end of a particular activity. Hence, they do not require any consumption of resources like time, money, materials, etc. Events in the network are being represented with the help of circles. The various types of events are burst event, merge event, and burst and merge events. The example of various events are start of a digging activity, end of plaster, beginning of the project, end of the project, etc. So friends, when you are drawing the network, you require the events, and events are nothing but the milestones in the project. So they either represent the beginning of certain activity or they do represent the end of certain activity. Hence, they do not consume any resources. They are being represented with the help of circle, and the types are burst event. Burst event is the event from where different events used to start or different activities used to start. A merge event is the event whereby two or more number of activities are ending, and burst and merge event is the event whereby few activities are getting merged and few activities are getting burst. So that is why burst and merge event. The example is already in front of you. If you are constructing a chemical plant in a company, then start of erection or start of digging is nothing but a event, or end of digging activity can also be a event. So it only represents either the beginning of a activity or end of an activity. Moving further, the second component in network analysis is activities. Activities are the basic project operations or tasks to be performed. Okay, activities normally consumes time or resources except in case of dummy activity, and activities are been represented by arrows or arcs. Friends, in the network analysis, the second component is activity. So activities are nothing but the number of exercises that are involved or number of operations that are involved in the complex project completion. So they are been represented with the help of arc or arrows, and normally they do consume resources except in case of dummy activities, as dummy activity do not consume any kind of resources. The various types of activities are predecessor activity or predicing activity, or successor activity or succeeding activity. A preceding activity is the activity which is going to happen before some activity, and a succeeding activity is the activity which used to happen after the happening of a particular activity. The various activities are activity of digging, activity of plaster, activity of welding in case of manufacturing plant. So these are the kind of activities involved in the network analysis. Friends, in activity, it is very important for you to understand the relationship amongst the activity. So let us move towards the third element or component of network analysis, and that is relationship. The relationship is the interconnectedness among us various activities while moving from start to end in a project. So relationship is representing or helping us out in actually designing or creating the network associated with certain project. Okay, the next component in the network analysis is dummy activity. A dummy activity is nothing but a provision for establishing an interrelationship amongst various activities which basically do not consume any resources. So it is just a provision for you to go and develop the network. All of these components should be better understood the moment we will come to a particular network. So let us see, this is the network and we can see the various components which we were discussed right now. Number one, you can see there are some blue colored circles having numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they all are nothing but the events or nodes. So they just represent either the beginning of certain activity or end of certain activity. For example, if you will see the event 1, so event 1 is representing the beginning of both activities, that is activity A and activity C, whereas event 2 represents the merging of activity A and burst of activity B and E. So events are nothing but the circles which either represent the beginning of something or end of something. And now you do remember there are certain types of events. The first event was burst event. So you can see event number 1 is a perfect example of burst event, as activity A and activity C are starting from event 1. So event 1 is a burst event. Then you can see activity number 5. It is a great example of merge event, as activity D, activity E and a dummy activity, these three are getting merged into event number 5. So event number 5 is an example of merge event. Even activity event number 2 and event number 3 are also an example of merge activity, as event A, activity A and activity C are getting merged there. Okay. Now event number 4 is a great example of burst and merge activity, as activity B is getting merged in event 4 and activities F and a dummy activity are bursting from event 4. So event 4 is an example of burst and merge event. Moving further, you can see the various activities are also involved and they are being represented with the help of arrows. So all the green arrows and one dummy arrow in red color are the examples of activities. So activity consumes resources and activity requires time or efforts to get happen. Okay, so this is the example of activity. In this particular network there are activities like activity A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H and one red colored dummy activity. Okay, so these are the examples of activity. Now moving further, there are interrelationships among us the activities. Say for example, activity 1 is a opening event, then activity A and C parallelly used to happen. After the completion of activity A, there is a beginning of activity B and E. After the completion of activity E and D and a dummy activity, that is B, there is a beginning of activity G. So this is nothing but the interrelationships among us various activities and events. So that is our third component. And lastly, dummy activity. Friends, as you can see, from event 4 to 5 there is a red colored activity shown with dotted lines, and that is a dummy activity. Why are you showing this dummy activity? Because activity G is starting after the completion of 3 activities, that is D, E and B. But unfortunately, if you have to represent event number 5, you will have to either merge it with 4 or you have to represent it separately. And when you are separating it, you will have to show another activity with the same B arrow, which is not the reality. So you have created a dummy row from event 4 connecting 5. So it is nothing but representing the dumminess of activity B. So that is the reason why sometimes in a network you have to draw the dummy activities. I hope you have understood the various components of network analysis. So do a small exercise. Try to explain the various components of network analysis with the help of example. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any doubts to be asked, you can contact me on the mentioned details. Thank you for watching. Have a nice time.